My grandfather, Rajni Patel, barrister Rajni Patel, who was the right hand of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and who was the first person to visit me in hospital when I was born.
So many of your fans are manifesting Gadar too.
Bhool Bhulaiya or a houseful, etc., or a golmaal, you know that actors can be replaced. They're only using the franchise name. But a film like Gadar is like a Titanic. When films happen by default, no one wanted me to join. And last of all, my grandmother, she was livid. She was like, is this what an educated person does, you know, and this and that. OTT is full of abusive language, homosexuality, gay, lesbianism, you know, scenes that you need to cover your kids' eyes or actually put the child lock on your television so that they can't access those platforms. Hi guys, this is Ameesha Patel and you're watching me on Bollywood Hungama.
To ask you, so many of your fans are manifesting Gadar too. Like they were praying that, sabke sequel aa rahe, iska kab sequel aayega. So how did that news break?
First of all, when you have such an epic film, which is one of Bollywood's biggest hits and one of the most viewed films in the world, more than any international film too, with the footfalls, you know that if the sequel has to be made, it has to have a solid story. And it's not an easy task to match up to make that kind of content. And you also know the actors are not replaceable.
Absolutely.
Unlike other sequels that you've seen, like a Bhool Bhulaiya or a Houseful, etc., or a Golmaal, you know that actors can be replaced. They're only using the franchise name. But a film like Gadar is like a Titanic. You want to see the same couple, the same families, the same actors. So the talks were on for a couple of years and they kept trying to find a story. In fact, in 2018, me and Sunny were at the Delhi airport and he said, Ameesha, Sharma ji called you or no? I said, why, Sunny? He's saying, Arey, Gadar too. I said, really? He finally found a subject. He said, yeah, I kind of approve something. But 2018, he spoke and then the year passed and there was no conversation. 2019, Anilji actually called me and he said that Sakina madam, chalo taiyar ho jao, hum log Gadar 2 start kar rahe hain. Bas kuch hi dinon mein hum aa rahe hain, narration denge, ye wo. And March 2020 mein start karni hai film. Come March, COVID happened, and then the talks died down. I know they were still working on it, but the whole world was in a question mark.
Nobody knew what's going to happen.
No one knew what's going to happen. There was no vaccines. There was a whole question mark with life. And then cinema actually took the biggest beating. Theaters, actors had to, it was not a work from home situation. Actors have to be on the field.
Absolutely.
We have to be there in our costume, on our location, with people around us. So it was not a situation where actors thought they'd ever have a job again. I mean, you saw big actors like Tom Cruise once theaters opened, going back to try and promote that come back to cinemas and things like that. So eventually when it happened, we knew a few months in advance, but we were told to keep quiet till they wanted to make a formal announcement via digital media and social media, etc. And I think then on Dussehra or during the Diwali month, we came out with the formal announcement. So we knew, and we knew it had been in the works, but we also knew it was going like this because of circumstance.
Absolutely.
But I'm glad that now it has come to this point where it's finally going to see the light of day in the cinemas. It's just a matter of 2 months. So.
Yeah. We keep posting about Gadar too and we get immense response on our page, on our website that, they are just waiting for this film to release. And also because people are actually also craving for a family film, I think OTT is great, but I think the family films, they have kind of
actually, I think people are waiting for good, clean cinema.
Absolutely.
The era of where you actually made cinema that a grandchild could sit with a grandparent and watch is completely missing. OTT for sure doesn't give you that because OTT is full of abusive language, homosexuality, gay, lesbianism, scenes that you need to cover your kids' eyes or actually put the child lock on your television so that they can't access those platforms. And it's not something you really want your kids to watch, or it's not a film like you say, go back to cinema and together as a family outing, which quintessentially Bollywood always was. It was a family outing. It was a make-believe world. Indians couldn't travel that much. We didn't have that much fashion. Everything that you wanted to go away into this beautiful world was cinema. You traveled the world through cinema. You traveled beautiful music. We didn't even have an organized music industry. You depended on film music to be your music, you know. So costumes, fashion, everything came from cinema. And I think people are missing that essence. And I think that's where a film like Gadar, they feel is an answer to that, because they're obviously, you know, connecting it with Gadar 1 and feeling that if it's a carry-on forward, they're going to get that essence back. And we've tried very hard to keep the essence of Gadar. It's got the family values, it's got the heart-wrenching moments, it's got the great action, the dialogues, music, everything that you expect from a Gadar is there. So now we just hope we get the love of the audiences like we did for Gadar 1.
I'm sure. I have to ask you this. When you came into this industry, you became a rage overnight. Like you had back-to-back successes. Even in the South, like people are talking about South cinema now.
Yeah.
But you even became a big name in the South, right?
Yeah.
Like, were you ready for the jealousy that followed?
So yes, what you're telling me is a very relevant, what you're asking me is a very relevant question, because you must also understand when I entered the film industry, I had only film actors' kids or producers' kids enter with me.
Yeah.
There was Kareena Kapoor, Abhishek Bachchan, Hrithik Roshan, Tushar Kapoor, Isha Deol, Fardeen Khan, you name it. You turned your head and it was a film family, third generation almost person coming in. I was the outsider, and I was anyway this South Bombay looked upon as this snob, because I was the educated outsider. I was the one who did not bitch on sets. I read books. I did not gossip. So I was anyway called a snob because I chose to read, not chose to gossip, not chose to bitch. So yes, and then seeing success after success, you know, with Hrithik and me becoming the heartthrob of the nation overnight, and then with Gadar coming, then with Badri coming, like you say, you know, whether it was Telugu, Tamil or Hindi cinema, by the grace of God, God was kind, and He knew I didn't have a godfather, so He gave me successful films. But my contemporaries could not handle that, and there was a lot of jealousy, there was a lot of snatching films from under your nose, there was a lot of cutting you off from films, which I used to not realize at that time that, you know, I've signed a film, I've blocked my dates, but suddenly I'm not on that set, and a few months later someone else is.
Did they inform you? Or?
No, a lot of times I was not informed, and I've called a lot of A-list directors and I've actually said, बहुत गलत किया आपने कि, you know, you've done this and today you started the shooting without me. And see, that was not the age of social media, and information didn't get out so fast. We had these film guides and trade guides that came, you know, home and to the offices, which we would read and find out what's going on. So you really didn't know, like today you know who's on what set, and everything's posted on Instagram and Twitter. But then it was just, you just worked in good faith. And from the kind of upbringing and family values I belong to, once you give your word, you stick to it. You don't manipulate. And I totally came in with this dream that, you know, cinema was on merit and, you know, was this larger than life. But if they chose you, it was because you got it on merit. And there was not these underhanded ways. Later on, you realize that it's a business after all. You know, so yeah, of course, I lost a lot of work, a lot of good films, and some films that were taken away from me bombed. You know, there was one particular film that came the same month as Gadar. And I remember when I had lost that film for these political reasons, jealousy reasons, I was very upset. And little did I know that that same film would release on the day of, on the month of Gadar, in the same month in June 2001. And that film tanked like anything, and Gadar created history. So I guess there's a God and there's karma, you know, and I'll always believe in that. I choose to still be a good human being, and I will still not adapt or adopt to those ways. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now this is about your contemporaries. I have spoken to a lot of actresses who mentioned that when they became a star, when they were considered like really good actresses, the male actors also got insecure. Like, what if she shines more than me in this scene? Did that ever happen with you?
I don't think so. I don't know because I have worked with the likes of Ajay Devgan, Sunny Deol, Salman Khan, Ritik, Shah Rukh, Amir, very secure actors. I think they've been here too long and they will continue to rule. I don't think they need to be insecure of anything. And yes, they were very proud to have me on board. In fact, there have been actors who were very happy with my stardom and used to tell their producers, कि नहीं अमीशा को फिल्म में लाओ. She will help our film. Pay her whatever she demands. We need her for our film. She will add to our film. So I faced that, and I think that's very positive. I have not faced the insecurity of male actors. In fact, when I used to work with people like Sanju and Salman and Sunny, अरे डांस स्टेप इसको दे देना, डायलॉग इसको दे देना. They're so chill because they're very secure in their positions. They don't believe in all that. So, and people like Amir and all, they're thorough professionals. They know what they're doing. I mean, if you see a film like Mangal Pandey, why would an Amir need to cut anyone's role? In fact, he elevated everyone's roles, So, yeah, I've been fortunate enough that I've worked with a whole secure breed of superstars. I haven't really worked with anyone that has been insecure, and they've only respected me, and they continue to respect me till today, and we share a great camaraderie with all of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that you're a great actor is because you had lived life like a common person before coming to this industry. A lot of people don't know, but you were also doing a 9-to-5 job before you entered the industry, right? How was that experience like, and how did that shape you? Did you enjoy that experience?
So, I was a common person in the fact that I didn't belong to a filmy family.
Yes.
But I belonged to a political family that was very much in the public eye, and maybe more so than a film family.
Right.
With my grandfather Rajni Patel, barrister Rajni Patel, who was the right hand of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and who was the first person to visit me in hospital when I was born. So I had people like that around me. Mr. M.F. Hussain, the greatest artist, politicians like Praful Patel, Rajiv Shukla ji, and all these people. So I lived a very high profile life, like Dhirubhai Ambani ji, Kokila Ben. These were everyday visitors at my grandparents' home. So I lived a very high profile life, away from, yes, the media of films, but extremely high profile in the kind of people that I interacted with growing up, and I think they were highly educated, they were highly self-made, like for instance Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, or for my own grandfather, and we believed in education. My grandmother was even more educated than I was. She's no more. She was the beginning and end of my existence, but highly read. Like, she used to read Karl Marx and like Das Kapital and those kind of books, and she used to give them to me from her shelf, and I was like, look at her and say, Dadima, like, I know you think I'm very intelligent and educated, but you're another level. My grandfather was from Cambridge, that's why the tag of barrister. My uncles were from Wharton and all that. So we really believed in education, and I chose a 9-to-5 job because I didn't want to be daddy's little girl and be in a spoilt environment, because I did try going to the company and the family company, and no one took me seriously. They're like, kya hai abhi, even though I graduated magna cum laude from Tufts University,
gold medalist,
yeah. So,
economics, yeah.
And I was like, listen, dude, I've worked hard. I need to be taken seriously. But that whole mentality, तो कंपनी तो बेटे के पास चले जाएगी, एंड बॉस की बेटी है, खाओ पियो, let her, don't give her any work. That's when I put my foot down and I said, no, I want to start from scratch, and joined the stock market. And I said, now I want to be like a normal person, take my tiffin to the office, work with normal employees, because I wanted to have that real life in my life and because I've always been a hard-working, self-made person. Even as a student, there were no shortcuts. So, but yeah, coming into the film industry, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Business ethics are very different. Work ethics are very different. In business, where in the background I grew up from, you do what you say what you mean. Things are different here. Here they are muh pe kuch aur, peeth ke piche kuch aur, which I'm not used to. For me, life is black and white. and I'm a very clear person. So yeah, that is a huge difference.
Absolutely. I was actually coming to that, you belong to such an illustrious family. Was it hard growing up in the sense that there might be a lot of pressure? You were an all-rounder. I know that, you used to, even when dance competitions, and not only in studies, you were good at everything, right?
By the grace of God.
Yeah, but did you face the pressure because you belong to such a family? You had to always put your A game on, or else you might bring, not shame, but you know how it is, people are like, oh, her family is doing so well, she also needs to do well, otherwise what's the point?
Absolutely. I have faced the pressure always. When I was a student, if I didn't come first in class, there was a cane waiting for me. I was taught to excel. It was very hard. The family expected excellence. And then when I went to America to study, I was clearly told that just because you can afford it and you feel you're from a financially sound background doesn't mean you're going to be there and be a typical spoiled Boston brat. I know it's a party place and everything, you can do all of that. But if your grades show that that's where your focus is, you're back to India, So yes, and I had it in me myself. I didn't need to be told so much, because in the 4th standard when I was studying in Cathedral, I decided in the 12th I would become head girl. And that was my mission, and I worked towards it. And I mean, in the 4th standard, who aims that high? But I did. And so what I had decided, that whatever I decide to be in my life, because films was never on the radar ever, I will never tarnish the family name. I knew the illustrious family to which I was privileged to be born into. I also knew that I was very privileged growing up. I was privileged to have a fine education. I was privileged to have a lot of travel, great exposure. So I said I will never tarnish that. But most importantly, I knew the kind of human being I am. And I said, more than the world, I want to look at myself in the mirror and know that success and failure can go like that, but I will never compromise my values and morals, and I will try to be the best that I can be. Of course, success and failure is then destiny.
That brings me to this question. Always wanted to be an actor somewhere down the line, because people used to tell you how beautiful you were and you're like, you may be good at it. But you had to rebel for that. You literally had to rebel for that, and you did, and you made a mark. Did success help to convince your family that, listen, I know what I'm doing, you can see the results, that this is what it is?
I've rebelled for everything in my life. The family didn't want me to go to America to study. They wanted me to go to England because that's where the family lived, and that's where they thought I'd be, in watchful eyes, under watchful eyes. So I said, no, I want to go to America. I want to be my own person. Then I rebelled not to work in the family company, but work outside independently. When films happened by default, no one wanted me to join. And last of all, my grandmother. She was livid. She was like, is this what an educated person does, and this and that. In fact, when I entered the film industry, the first question every journalist would ask me was, aren't you a misfit? Aren't you too educated? You're Barrister Ameesha Patel's granddaughter. What are you doing here? And I'm like, why can't an educated person be part of the performing arts? Because for me, it was art, And so definitely I have fought for everything. But when a film like Gadar happened, and I had to work really hard towards the character and the role, and read books and read the Quran and go to mosques and see the forms of worship and, adopt a different kind of body language to go into that era, that's when my own grandmother gave me a pat on my shoulder and she said, if this is the kind of cinema you want to do, then I will support you. So I think it all comes down to, even the choices you made in cinema. But it's very difficult to always get a Gadar or a Hamraz or a Bhool Bhulaiya, or even, venture into a honeymoon travels, whatever. Because by and large, cinema like that does not exist. So I was fortunate that I did get those roles. And I guess I'm fortunate that Gadar 2 again, has happened. But I just hope that writers, directors do think of good cinema, because that's what the audiences really want.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Ameesha Patel and you're watching me on Bollywood Hungama.